Welcome to Real Estate in Real Time. I'm your host, Woody Zimmerman, here with Mark Skabowski of Remax Lakes. And good morning.
Good morning, how are you?
Doing well. How are you?
I am fantastic.
Okay.
Rejuvenated.
Rejuvenated?
Rejuvenated. We took a trip to the nation's capital.
Awesome. Okay.
We were talking about a little bit off air. It's amazing how clean the city is, how beautiful the buildings are. I took a run, got pictures of the sun coming up over the Capitol. It was pretty impressive.
Yeah, that is awesome. It's been a while since I've been there. When I was there, it was like in the 80s. I don't remember it being that clean.
It was really clean. I was truly impressed. Standing
Yeah.
around, we went and saw the Lincoln Memorial, the World War II Memorial, all those things.
Yeah.
For me, that are pretty important along there. The
Oh,
Capitol
yes.
building, the White House.
Yeah.
Pretty interesting to see.
Yeah. Well, I'm jealous because I do want to get back. I do want to get back there sometime.
I would throw that out there. We drove.
Yeah.
It's not a terrible drive.
Yeah.
It's not it's a day drive.
Yeah.
So you obviously have to go for more than one day.
Mm-hmm.
But we left, came back, 4 days total. It was a good trip.
Mm-hmm.
Day driving, 2 days in the city. It was really nice.
Yeah. Perfect. All
Yeah,
right.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Can't
Awesome.
complain.
Well, that is great. Yeah, definitely jealous. I want to get back. All right, what are we going to talk about today?
So I thought it was probably time to do getting ready to buy a home.
Okay.
My common theme is get ready, be ready. And it may not be today. Maybe you're just thinking about, hey, I'd like to buy a home, but what do I need to do to be ready to do that?
Mm-hmm.
We did a show a couple weeks ago, letting folks know that you don't have to have 20% down in order to buy.
Yeah.
There are other types of financing that you can do. But still, are you financially ready to purchase? Have you made that commitment? Yes, I'm going to do this. So this is a long-term process.
Okay.
The stuff I'm talking about here isn't going to be like the Experian credit boost, where you jump your credit score in a heartbeat.
Right.
It doesn't mean you're going to be ready in a month, or maybe you will, depends on how disciplined you want to be.
Mm-hmm.
Because owning a home brings with it not only getting the mortgage but the cost afterwards.
Right.
And if I've heard it once, I've heard it 100 times. I don't want to be house poor. I'm pre-approved to spend $300,000, but I only want to spend $100,000 because I don't want to be house poor.
Okay.
Well, I think if you sit down and you budget, what do you actually spend?
Right.
What do you actually spend in a given month?
Mm-hmm.
And so ultimately we're saying organize your finances. Come up with a plan. How much have I got in a savings account? How much do I have in a checking account? How much am I contributing towards retirement? And one thing that I would promote, if your employer has a 401k plan, and not every employer does,
Right.
but if you do, and they have an employer match,
Mm-hmm.
and you have to contribute X to get the maximum that the employer contributes, please contribute that whatever X is.
It's free money.
You're leaving money on the table otherwise.
You're giving yourself a raise, so
Exactly.
to speak.
Now,
Yeah.
and I get it. When I was president of a company in Fort Wayne, I would get together and we'd talk with employees about the 401k plan. And these aren't folks that are making, $150,000 a year.
Sure.
They're hourly workers. I get it. They're struggling to meet their bills and all of those things every week. Totally understand that. But, if you look at the tax benefits
Mm-hmm.
to contributing, because you're contributing pre-tax, so
Right.
your income after the tax is going to be, you'll be better off because you're saving the tax dollars that you're putting in there.
Correct.
But, set the tax ramifications aside. If you put in 2% of your pay and your employer matches 4%,
Mm-hmm.
well, if you don't do that 2%, what we're talking about is you're leaving that 4% on the sideline.
Right.
You're not getting that benefit.
Mm-hmm.
So please, if anything, contribute to that 401k plan to at least get the employer match.
Yeah, absolutely. So I started doing this, I don't know, like 30 years ago, 25 years ago, and then that compound interest, it's just amazing on what that will do, to create a nest egg for you when you do retire.
Right, over time. And so are you going to use your 401k to buy a house? No. But when a lender looks at your financial position, those are those resources that remain, right?
I
They're
never-
your reserves.
I never thought about that.
They are. They're reserves that are there. So you may not use them to buy the house,
Mm-hmm.
but they are reserves. And you're showing that you're being fiscally responsible. So when you go to get a loan, the lender looks at that and says, oh, you've saved. You've got XYZ in your 401k plan.
Gotcha.
So, basic budgeting. What are your expenses? What are you actually spending? Most of us don't write those things down.
No, we don't. We really don't.
In today's debit card society, it's very easy to just swipe the card, right? Now, granted, you have to have cash in the bank to
Right.
cover those things, or you're using a credit card.
Mm-hmm.
Those things just continue to add up. So have a good idea of what your expenses are today, your basic, rent, your car payments, your insurances, your utilities. What do you like to spend on entertainment? All of those things come into play with what you're spending every single day, but you have to have a good idea of what that is.
When you actually break it down and you figure out how much you're spending on food, like for lunches,
Yeah.
and that and dinners out with the family or whatnot, and the grocery store, when it all adds up, you might be shocked.
You really will, and sometimes you just have to write those things down.
Right.
And you really need to do the math, because that $5 cup of coffee at Starbucks, maybe you don't get one. Maybe your savings plan becomes, I'm only going to get 4 days a week, I'm not going to do 5.
Yeah.
Well, you save $5 per week instead of, the 25 you're spending 20 on Starbucks. Not that I recommend that.
Yeah, right.
But
Yeah.
it's the small things that add up.
Yeah, you start changing things once
Yeah.
you realize how much money you were spending.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, coming up here after the break, we're going to talk more about this, getting ready to buy a home. You're listening to Real Estate in Real Time. Welcome back. You're listening to Real Estate in Real Time. I'm your host, Woody Zimmerman, here with Mark Skabowski of Remax Lakes. And we're talking about getting ready to buy a home, and we talked about organize your finances, create your budget.
Create a budget, and in order to create a budget, you need to know what you're spending. And that's
Right.
what we were finishing with, and it doesn't have to be anything fancy schmancy. I'm sure there are apps out there. I didn't do a lot of research on it because I'm more a pencil and paper guy when it comes to budget stuff. But, at least write down, record somewhere what you're spending every day. Whether just take 30 days and write down everything that goes out of your pocket. Whether you're swiping it with your credit card, whether you're swiping it with your debit card, it all counts. Get a good idea on what you spend in a given month.
Okay.
And then you look at those things and think, okay, what can I minimize the expense on? Notice I'm not saying cut out, because I'm not saying the no fun thing, right? I mean, but what can I reduce my expenses on? Maybe my kids, they'll hate to hear this, but the reality is, when they were growing up, I wouldn't let them get a cheeseburger Happy Meal at McDonald's because I wasn't paying at the time 40 cents for a piece of cheese, right? I said,
Yeah.
you can get a hamburger Happy Meal,
Yeah,
but you're
right.
not getting the cheeseburger Happy
Right,
Meal.
yeah.
Now, they will. I have not lived that down to this day. They will, they're 28 and 30, and they're still telling me, Dad, you wouldn't let us get the cheese.
Yeah.
But you know what? The reality is, it's little things like that that come in.
Yeah.
And okay, it's only 40 cents. Well, it's only $1, or it's only $1. Again, my Scottish mother told me that 10 of those dollars equals 10.
Yeah.
Right? And 10 times is 100.
Yeah.
You got to pay attention to that.
Right.
So watch the small stuff, watch the pennies, and you will gradually build those dollars.
Right.
So first thing is having a budget. Second thing is have an emergency fund. I'm not saying set all your money aside for buying a house. You need to have that emergency fund. Why? Because tires wear out on your car. You have an accident, you have to pay a deductible. If you have to borrow to pay those things on your credit card, now you're paying interest on
Yeah.
them.
You don't want to do that.
And it just gets more and more and more and more. You're paying interest on money that if you had saved, you'd have.
Before I had an emergency fund, I had a lot of emergencies.
Yes.
After I had an emergency fund, I noticed that my emergencies went away.
Yeah, and I want to tell folks out there, this is the voice of experience, right? I am much older now. I am not telling you at 18 I was doing all the things I'm talking
Oh,
about
no.
now.
It took a
I
long
was
time.
spending money.
Oh, yeah.
As soon as I got it, I was
Burning a
spending it.
hole in my pocket.
Burning a hole in my pocket. I made dumb things. I bought a stereo,
Right.
I bought all this stuff, buy now, pay later, all
Yeah.
those things. In fact, the
Right.
first TV I bought, Curtis Mathis, when I was in the service, you could buy it on credit for 36 months, right?
Yes.
$1,000 for this
Yes.
big TV. And yes, fortunately I paid it off early, but it's 36% interest, for God's sake.
Yes.
Right? I've made these mistakes, so I'm trying to pass that education on.
Right.
So I am not sitting here on high, like, I'm better than anybody, because I've been there.
Yeah.
I've been in that spot where I was doing all the dumb things that I'm saying not to do.
Exactly.
I have done them.
I've done them too.
I have done them. So I'm
Yes.
trying to help get you ready to go there. And for those of us who maybe, when you're trying to budget, I get this from running a company. People, when they're putting the budget together, they only look at the negative. We got to minimize on our expenses. Well, what about don't sell the income side short? Because you are probably, over time, if you're a young person who's getting ready to graduate college, your income is going to increase. If you're somebody who's been in your career for quite a while, maybe you've got a planned promotion coming up. Maybe you're going to switch jobs. All of those things. Bottom line, don't focus just on the negatives, cutting spending. What's really going to happen? Be realistic when you're planning your budget, is what I'm trying to say.
Well, and also, what we haven't talked about is in your budget, there might be rent in there right now.
Yeah.
And a lot of times you can get a mortgage for a lower payment than what you're paying for in rent. Just keep in mind
Right.
those additional expenses
Right.
that you have in buying a house. They come along with it.
You got it. So when you're writing that budget, be realistic. Don't only add the expenses in and not put the offset for any reductions that you're going to have, as you mentioned, in rent. If your rent's $1,000 a month and your mortgage you think is going to be $800 a month, well, you've picked up $200 a month right there, right? I mean, that's a positive thing. But many times when people are writing budgets, all they do is the negative. When I was working with sales folks, they would always budget. They never budgeted sales high enough. They didn't have a stretch. And bottom line, I get it. None of us want to be house poor. We want to have time and dollars to do the things that we would like to do for entertainment. Include those entertainment items in your budget. But don't make your entertainment 75% of your budget, right? If your plan is to buy a house, don't have travel plans be 75% of your budget. Now, if that's what you choose to do, my guess is you're probably not going to buy a house anytime soon. But long term, if you want to buy a house, be fiscally responsible, be disciplined, save, stick to your budget. I'm not saying no fun, but I'm saying maybe control some of that fun and shift some of those dollars into a saving plan so that you can be ready to buy a house when it comes time.
Okay, good information. And again, information based on experience.
Experience, the voice of gray-haired old guy experience.
Yep, we've all been there. So, all right. Hey, Mark, your contact information?
Sure. Our website's lake-realtors.com. Phone number is 574-834-1233. If you got any questions, if you want a copy of this, you can always email me, markskabowski@remax.net.
Okay, awesome. Great information. Have yourself a wonderful weekend. You've been listening to Real Estate in Real Time.